Today we're going to learn the side saddle cluster stitch, which I originally found in this book that I highly recommend if you like to learn interesting crochet stitches. We're going to take a quick look at this chart because it helps explain what we're going to be doing. If you're not familiar with charts, they're actually a really helpful visual guide if you learn a little bit better by looking at the pictures. I find them sometimes easier to follow. So in this case, what we're seeing here is that the sides of the side saddle cluster stitch are worked a little bit differently depending on which side you're on. So in this case, anytime you are on this side, the edge is worked with 5 chains, as you can see right here. And on the other side, the edge is worked with a double crochet, and that's right here. If you ever get lost when you're working, in order to figure out what ending you're supposed to put on the row, you can reference what have you done before on that row. So if you've done 5 chains, then you'll know that you're on a 5 chain side and you end with 5 chains. If you've seen that you've done double crochets before, then you'll end with a double crochet in that row. I've gotten lost a few times doing this, so I just wanted to point that out. I'll leave a link to this book in the description box. So the side saddle cluster stitch is worked in multiples of 5 chains plus 1. So in this case, my multiple of 5 is 15, plus 1 makes 16, and then I'm doing 1 more because it's the base chain. You're always going to add 1 on the base chain when you're getting started. So that gives me a total of 17 chains I'm starting with. To begin, we're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. And from there we're going to begin what we're going to call the cluster stitch. So the cluster begins with 3 chains. 1, 2, 3 chains. And then we're going to work as if we're doing a double crochet into the next chain. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull it through just like a double crochet, and pull my yarn through those 2 loops. Instead of finishing this like I would a double crochet, I'm going to leave this loop and this loop on my hook. So I didn't finish the double crochet all the way. Instead, I want to do the same thing in the next stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, insert it into the chain, work as if it's a double crochet until I get to the very end, and I'm going to keep that loop. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to do that same half double crochet 2 more times. So I'm yarning over, inserting my hook, doing part of a double crochet. Now I have 4 loops on there. I'm going to do that 1 more time. This is the same cluster stitch that we'll do once we're further along in the work, but you'll see as we go that this is the only time that we're doing each partial double crochet into its own chain. Now that I have 5 loops on my hook, I'm going to yarn over and pull the yarn through all 5 loops. And there we go, we have a cluster. Each cluster is followed by 1 chain, and the chain is followed by 1 single crochet in the next stitch. So I'm going to take this over here, do a single crochet in the next stitch, and now we're ready to repeat the cluster. You remember we started with a single crochet here, did 3 chains, a cluster, and now we're back here with a single crochet, and so we're going to do 3 chains, and then we're going to yarn over and put an almost complete double crochet into the next chain. I'm just going to reserve that last loop. So now I have 2 on my hook. I'm again going to yarn over, do part of a double crochet, so now I have 3 loops on my hook. Again, I'm going to yarn over. Each time we do this, we're going to do 4 partial double crochets. So we'll have the 3 chains, the loop from the 3 chains, and then we're going to have 4 more loops because they're the partial double crochets. So here's my 3 chains, then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 partial double crochets for a total of 5 loops. I'm going to yarn over and pull my yarn through all 5 of those, which leaves me with another cluster. So I'm going to do a chain, and again I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch. And then we're going to be ready to do one more cluster. So I'm going to do 3 chains, and then I'm going to yarn over, and in the next stitch I'm going to do part of a double crochet, keeping that loop on there. Again, yarn over, do part of a double crochet for the second one, yarn over, do part of a double crochet for the third one. Now I have 4 loops on my hook, which means that I need to do one more partial double crochet. Now I have 5 loops, so I'm going to pull my yarn through all 5 loops. I'm going to do one more chain, and we're going to end this row with a single crochet. Okay, that's our base row. Now, if we look at the chart, we can see that we're on the side. We worked from here to here. So we're at the side that is going to need 5 chains at the edge. So we can flip our work over, and for row 2, we're going to start it with 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after we have 5 chains, we're going to work a single crochet into the top of the cluster stitch. So that top part is right here, right before the chain that we did on the previous row. So over here, here's the chain we worked, and here's the top of that cluster. We're always going to work a single crochet into the top of that cluster from now on. So I'm right before the chain. I'm going to work a single crochet right here, and now I'm ready to work another cluster just like we did on the previous row, only we're going to use this chain section now. So I'm going to start with 3 chain, and then instead of working into the bottom chains like we did before, we're going to work into this gap that was formed by the 3 chains on the previous row. So I'm going to yarn over, do part of a double crochet, but I'm going to keep that loop just like we were doing previously. So now I have 2 loops. I'm going to yarn over, do part of a double crochet. Now I have 3 loops. Again, I'm going to yarn over for 4 loops. I'm going to do that one more time. So now I have 5 loops on my hook, just like we did before. I'm going to yarn over and pull them all together. Now we just did the cluster, so that is always followed by a chain, and the chain is always followed by a single crochet. So I'm going to put a single crochet right into the top stitch that's closest to this chain of 3. And then I'm going to be ready for another cluster. So I'm going to do 3 chains. I'm going to yarn over just like a double crochet, do my partial double crochet there. So now I have 2 loops. Again, I'm going to yarn over, do a partial double crochet, yarn over, partial double crochet, yarn over, and now I have 5 loops. So I'm going to complete all these double crochets and connect them all with 1 yarn over. So now I have another cluster. And I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to put a single crochet into the top of this cluster. This is chain 3 from the previous round, so I know that that single crochet goes right here next to it. I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to yarn over to make my cluster, incomplete double crochet, incomplete double crochet. I'm going to do 4 of those total for a total of 5 loops on my hook. We have 5 loops, so I'm going to pull the yarn through, and then Normally we would do a chain and a single crochet, but because we're at the edge, we're right here, we're gonna just do a cluster and then we're gonna go straight into a double crochet in the last stitch. So I'm gonna yarn over and put my double crochet right here in the last stitch. Okay, so we turn this around, you can see, just like on the example swatch here, on this side we're doing the 5 chains right here, and on this side we're doing a double crochet to finish the edge. So you're going to alternate rows with 5 chains on the edge and a double crochet on the edge. So we're now in the 3rd row. We are going to do a chain, and then we are going to single crochet into the top of this cluster, just like we've been doing previously. So there's the top of the cluster. I'm going to do a single crochet, and I'm going to do 3 chains. Now I'm ready to do my cluster of 4 incomplete double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have 5 loops on my hook, so now I can pull the yarn through and I've made a cluster. You can see it's called side saddle because we're kind of alternating the direction of these clusters. So now I'm going to pull a chain and I'm going to do a single crochet in the top of the next cluster. I'm going to get the yarn out from underneath my chair, and then I'm going to do 3 chains to begin the next cluster. Again, here we are in the chain 3 gap, so I'm going to yarn over and do my 4 incomplete double crochets. I have 5 loops, so I'm going to pull the yarn through. I'm going to do a chain, and then I'm going to single crochet into the next top of the cluster. After that, I'm going to do 3 chains. I'm going to do a cluster, 4 incomplete double crochets. I have 5 loops, so I'm going to pull my yarn through. Now, just like I always do, I'm going to follow that with a chain, and then I'm going to put 1 single crochet into this loop that was created by the 5 chains of the previous row. So I'm just going to put it in there. It'll find the right place to go. We're ending that row with a single crochet. So the basic pattern will always consist of putting through a single crochet in the top of a cluster, working 3 chains, making a cluster by doing 4 incomplete double crochets, yarning over and pulling your yarn through all 5 loops that are on your hook. That will make a cluster. After you finish that, you're always going to do 1 chain and then single crochet in the top of the cluster. You do that all the way across, and the only thing that is ever different is when you're at the edges. And you can figure out what you need to do for the edge by looking at what you did on the previous edges. I hope that makes sense. Feel free to reference the blog post that is in the description box for a few more details. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments for me. Check out my blog, makeandocrew.com, for a lot of free crochet patterns that range from very beginner to a little bit more complex, like this side saddle stitch. Thanks for watching and happy crocheting!